Marilyn Mosby, the state prosecutor for the city of Baltimore, is now trying to get her criminal charges dismissed, which is interesting because she was a prosecutor, somebody who brought criminal charges against many other people. Now she is facing the criminal charges as a defendant, we can see here, and she's trying to get her case dismissed, but the prosecutors who are now prosecuting her have filed this motion. This is a motion in response to Miss Mosby's motion to dismiss and to disqualify counsel and for a bill of particulars. And so you can see here, defendant Baltimore State Attorney Marilyn Mosby submitted a bunch of documents, motions to the court to dismiss the indictment, to disqualify counsel, to request a bill of particulars. And the government, the prosecutors, are responding back in 61 pages. And they're saying, no, Judge, we don't think that you should dismiss this case. There's plenty here that supports these criminal charges. You can see they've got a whopper of a table of contents here. We've got subsection 1 is going to give us the background. Subsection 2 is going to give us defendant's motion to dismiss for vindictive and selective prosecution. They say it's meritless and it should be denied. So Mosby is saying, this is vindictive prosecution. This is malicious prosecution and prosecutorial misconduct and all sorts of stuff. And they're saying that she is the recipient of a malicious prosecution, and prosecutors are saying, no, it's not. This is perfectly reasonable. They're saying that Mosby has no factual basis for any claims of animus. So Mosby saying that there's sort of this ulterior motive, that there's not any actual criminality here, but that she is the victim of this abusive prosecutorial office. And prosecutors are saying that's not true at all. They're going to see here that there's been a lot of details, a lot of pages of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, saying that the defendant's claim that the investigation began with a referral from bar counsel is false. All this stuff started before the independent inquiry. And so they're kind of correcting the record in many different ways. You can see that this just goes on. We've got a conclusion as we get down to page 61. So a lot of this stuff tends to be heavy legalese. Let's see if we can fly through some of the more interesting things. The background is always a good place to start. We can learn a little bit more about some of the allegations that are being proffered forward against Miss Mosby. It says here, a federal grand jury indicted her in January, and we talked about that. The defendant is charged with 2 counts of perjury, 2 counts of making false statements on a loan application for counts 2 and 4. And then we've got separate dates of offenses. So we've got committed perjury on 2 separate occasions. There were different requests. That's right, $40,000 from her deferred compensation plan, sort of exploiting some of those COVID rules, saying that she had financial hardships resulting from COVID, and she needed that money tax-free. What happened was she took that money out, went and allegedly put that on down payments on other properties in other parts of the country, and then bought them and promised that those would not be Airbnbs or leased out as rentals, and then they were, and so all sorts of fraudulent activities going on. Says the defendant used the first COVID-19 financial hardship as a down payment to purchase an 8-bedroom single-family home for $545,000. Used the second hardship withdrawal as a down payment on a 2-bedroom condo down in Longport Key in Florida. Now, that doesn't sound like financial hardship, which might be why you need that money, why you get it out early from your government money. The city of Baltimore deferred compensation plan, where she participated, is referred to as a plan where you get money if you suffer financial hardship. She didn't have any of those things. She actually got more money. She didn't have a reduction in income. It went up $9,000. Only state and local governments and some nonprofits can offer those plans. They get penalties if there's early withdrawals, and she didn't get those. According to IRS plans, I'm not going to read any of that stuff. Coronavirus aid created new withdrawal option, CARES Act, because they cared about us for 2 years. And it gave her a little bit of an escape hatch. She was able to use that new rule and use the money to take out funds for down payments on 2 vacation homes in Florida. At the time she made both purchases, she owed significant debt to the IRS for unpaid taxes. That debt dated to tax years 2014, 2015, and then when they filed their joint return, they owed the IRS another $17,000. They didn't pay it. They filed joint returns saying we're entitled to those funds. They got sent multiple notices from the IRS, didn't comply. IRS said, we've got a lien. We've got a lien to all property and rights on all your property. That came about in March. IRS put a lien on them, on their property. It was not against the home in which the lien was not against the home in which the defendant resided. I think they're missing a word there. The IRS sent the defendant and her husband individually a notice that had been filed against them to their home address. After the IRS filed this lien, defendant filed her tax return for that tax year. They said they claimed a refund. They did not receive a refund because it went to their delinquency. A little more than a month later, the defendant signed a contract on the home for $500,000. Another one got a mortgage from Cardinal Financial, signed the second mortgage, used the COVID financial hardship withdrawal as a down payment for that property. So you typically get money for hardship when you're actually in hardship, not when you need to go buy a vacation home. But I'm not a government prosecutor or a state attorney, so I don't know how they do things. The defendant made a series of false statements as charged in count 2 of the superseding indictment. In both the mortgage applications, the defendant did not disclose that she owes a significant amount of federal taxes, lied on it. In a response, they said, hey, are you delinquent on any federal debts before we give you this mortgage for $490,000? Are you delinquent on anything? No, I'm not. All right, well, here you go. Here's $500,000 then. At closing, there was a second home writer that said that she would not have exclusive control of the property because she'd give it over to a management company because she was going to Airbnb or do whatever, allegedly, according to this government document. By falsely executing the second home writer, defendant could obtain a lower interest rate than if she didn't, and then she could use that cash to buy another home or do whatever she wants with. The defendant used the second COVID home loan or withdrawal to purchase another home in Longboat Key, Florida for another $500,000. And we can just see, we've covered a lot of this here. The defendant's motion to dismiss should be denied because they're saying it's meritless. The defendant publicly attacks any law enforcement professional who questions her behavior. And she's just going through a whole list of everybody. Isabel, we've got Lydia, we have Leo, and we've got Stephen Shenning, and now even Eric Barron. They're all getting scolded by Miss Mosby. The defendant invented a tale of victimhood, an attempt to deflect from her own fraudulent behavior. As the evidence at trial will show, the only thing the defendant is a victim of is of her own lies and choices. The only basis of personal animus is the fact that 3 years before the investigation began, the information was offered in support of a motion. She said there was a smear campaign happening against her, even though they say there's an incontrovertible fact that a tip occurred. And so we'll see there. There was a solicitation of a donation from somebody. And look, this is all just government drama, it looks like. The defendant's theory doesn't make any sense, they write. It's government drama. Gross. All right, so then we see some case law. We have the Eastern District of Virginia talking about vindictiveness. They're setting the standard, right? What Mosby is here is saying this is malicious prosecution. There is sort of a group of people who are out to get me, essentially. And so this is not a new argument. There's case law for this, and the prosecution is going through it. And they're saying, look, take a look at United States versus Stokes or United States versus Wilson. These people claimed vindictive prosecution, but we went through the elements here and we found that it wasn't the case. And if they take those same rules and apply them here, we're going to spend a lot of time going through. You can see all the rules. We have the Fourth Circuit here. We just keep going. The defendant didn't cite a case where a court had dismissed something, so there's not going to be any case citations there. We have a lot of details in this massive motion, alerting people of conspiracies. And we can just skip through most of this. I mean, look at this. It's just government drama. In her declarations, timing of money and solicitations, 50 colleagues made individual contributions ranging from $50 to $6,000. So they're just complaining about money and saying that, money was transferred one way or the other. And that means that they've got this, these personal squabbles that they've got to deal with. And it just keeps going and going and going. I mean, honestly, the rest of this is not even that interesting. They say the defendant has presented no evidence that the timing was designed to impact her election. Okay, so she's coming out with a bunch of just broad strokes arguments, and they're just going through one by one and knocking them out. The defendant's motion to disqualify, she's trying to get the U.S. attorney thrown off the case, repeats the same personal attacks, and it's meritless and should be denied. So she's just going through and trying to, basically attack every single person involved in the case. She says that he violated numerous provisions of the Justice Manual. They say, no, he hasn't. Defendant claims that Wise refused to allow State Attorney Mosby the opportunity to testify. And they say, no, she never asked to testify. Okay, so saying that her due process was not in fact violated, that she's kind of making these things up. They cite another case that they say doesn't apply. And they say she's not entitled to a bill of particulars. Let's see how they conclude this big motion. We've got Eric L. Barron, U.S. Attorney, written by Leo Wise, Sean Delaney, Aaron Zielinski. They're writing, they say, the motion to dismiss and disqualify are a mishmash of unsupported allegations, inaccuracies, misstatements, and baseless personal attacks. The patent misrepresentations are as unmoored from any law as they are factually untrue. For these reasons, denied. And they're saying that both of these have, all of this has been conducted appropriately. She does not need a bill of particulars. She's been appropriately apprised of her charges. She's got multiple indictments. She knows what she's facing. And I think the judge is going to agree. I think the judge is going to take a look at this and say, yeah, these charges are going to go forward. There's enough here to see this through to the next setting. And what do you think? Do you think the judge is going to agree with the prosecution and deny the motion to dismiss filed by Miss Mosby? Or is the judge going to grant it and this whole thing goes away? I think it continues forward because there's enough here. And it sounds like Miss Mosby is sort of catching it from a lot of people over there in Baltimore, rightfully so. Cleaning up from within, which is something that we always like to see. Good to see that happening there in Baltimore. And so that was Marilyn Mosby. Of course, we'll continue to follow this one along. We'll see what else she can come up with to try to escape any accountability. And I hope you join us as we follow that case. So don't forget to subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you gave us a like, left a comment before you got out of here. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.